Why is it that the more we achieve, the more anxious we feel, while those with far less seem to possess an unshakable calm? You are currently losing your life to a mental battlefield of what comes next. But today you'll learn the Stillwater Protocol, a 3-step ancient system that transforms your chaotic internal noise into a deep reservoir of clarity. If you ever felt like you're running a race with no finish line, it's time to discover the roadmap that leads back to yourself. Like the video and let's get into it. Have you ever noticed that even when you finally get what you wanted, the peace you expected never arrives? You hit the goal, you buy the item, or you finish the project, and within 10 minutes, your mind is already sprinting toward the next worry. The finish line moves the exact second you cross it. You are caught in a loop you didn't sign up for, running on a treadmill that only speeds up when you get tired. Meet Elias. At 35, Elias was a man who looked like he had the world figured out. He had a high-rise office, a healthy bank account, and a family that loved him. On paper, he was a champion. In reality, he was a ghost inhabiting a luxury suit. Elias woke up every single morning feeling like he was stepping onto a psychological battlefield, his heart hammering against his ribs before his eyes even adjusted to the morning light. Before his feet could even touch the floor, his brain was already a raging storm of emails he hadn't sent, confrontations he might face, and a constant, gnawing dread that he was falling behind a clock he couldn't see. Every success he achieved didn't bring relief. It just raised the stakes. The higher he climbed, the further he feared he would fall. He was trapped in the prison of more. Listen closely. Elias wasn't failing. He was winning by every metric the world values. Yet he felt entirely hollow. He was completely exhausted by a life that felt like a life sentence instead of a gift. He was spending his precious today buying a someday peace that never actually arrived. He thought the next promotion would cure it. He thought the next vacation would fix it. It never did. The noise only grew louder. Stop and think honestly. When was the last time you sat in total, uninterrupted silence for 5 minutes without checking your phone, without playing a video, or without planning your future? If the mere thought of that silence makes you uncomfortable, you are trapped in the exact same loop as Elias, and you are in the exact right place. The problem Elias faced wasn't his heavy workload. It wasn't his demanding boss, his overflowing inbox, or the volatile stock market. It was something far deeper, far more insidious. It was his internal blueprint. He had learned from a very young age that to survive in this world, you had to be realistic. And to his subconscious mind, being realistic meant constantly looking for the next threat. It meant anticipating disaster before it struck. He believed that if he stopped worrying, he would lose his edge. He didn't realize the terrifying truth. Peace isn't something you magically find out there once all your problems are finally solved. The problems will never be fully solved. The inbox will never be permanently empty. Peace is not a reward for a perfect life. It is a clinical skill you must practice when your problems are still very much present and staring you in the face. Elias was trying to build a massive, stable house on a shifting foundation of vibrating sand. Every text message was an emergency. Every minor setback was a crisis. He was so utterly busy reacting to the external world that he had completely forgotten how to inhabit his internal one. He was living his entire existence in a cramped, suffocating cup of anxiety, wondering why the vast ocean of life felt so incredibly overwhelming. He was drowning in shallow water. He thought he needed a new life, but what he actually needed was an entirely new way of seeing. Your mind doesn't process reality as it is. It processes reality based on what it is looking for. If you train your eyes to look for threats, you will find them everywhere, even in your victories. Let's do a quick, brutal recap of where we stand right now. 1. Peace is not a destination you arrive at. It's a vehicle you drive. 2. Your attention is your only real currency in this lifetime. Stop spending it on chaos. 3. If you do not consciously control your mind, your circumstances will ruthlessly control you. One Tuesday afternoon, unable to bear the suffocating noise inside his head for another second, Elias walked away from his desk. He drove until the concrete structures turned to soil, visiting a master carver named Samuel. Samuel lived at the very edge of the city in a small workshop that smelled deeply of cedar, old paper, and an unshakable, profound stillness. You could hear the faint, steady scratch of his chisel against wood. It was a rhythm that seemed to slow down time itself. "Samuel," Elias said, his voice tight, cracking under the weight of suppressed panic. "I have everything I ever wanted. The money, the status, the family. But I am absolutely miserable. My chest feels tight from morning until night. How do you stay so completely centered in a world that is constantly screaming?" Samuel didn't look up immediately. He carefully blew a layer of fine dust off a rough block of raw wood. Then he reached into a small cloth bag on his workbench and pulled out two distinct stones, one charcoal black, rough and jagged, the other pure white, smooth and polished. "Elias," Samuel said softly, his voice grounding the room. "You think your mind is a helpless victim of a loud world, but your mind is actually a garden. For 30 years, you've been waking up and intentionally planting seeds of dread, comparison, urgency, and what-if scenarios. You have watered them with your focus. Now, you have a massive forest of thorns inside your chest, and you are wondering why it hurts so badly to walk." The truth was a heavy blow. Elias realized he hadn't just stumbled into anxiety. He had built it. You see, you have systematically trained your brain to see problems. You aren't bad at life. You are actually an absolute expert at being miserable because you have practiced it every single morning for a decade. Every time you check your phone within 10 seconds of waking up, you are feeding the thorns. Every time you replay an argument in your head, you are watering the weeds. Think of your brain right now as a high-performance athlete. What is your mind currently world-class at doing? Is it world-class at worrying, predicting disaster and finding flaws? Or is it world-class at witnessing the present moment with absolute clarity? You become what you practice in the dark. "I want to untrain it," Elias whispered, his shoulders dropping as the defensive armor finally cracked. "But I don't know how to make the world stop shaking." Samuel gestured toward a large, heavy stone vase sitting quietly in the corner of the workshop. It was filled to the brim with crystal clear water, completely motionless, acting like a mirror for the room. "Most people," Samuel said, walking over to the vase, "treat their peace of mind like a shallow puddle on a dirt road. The moment a single pebble of trouble falls into it, a late email, a rude comment, a minor delay, the water is instantly muddied, the reflection is completely gone, and the puddle becomes a mess." Samuel reached down, picked up a heavy wooden mallet, and dropped a thick block of cedar directly into the stone vase. The water splashed slightly, but within seconds, the ripples subsided. The deep body of water absorbed the impact completely. The surface returned to a flawless calm. "But if you build your piece into a deep reservoir, a massive vase of internal capacity," Samuel continued, "you can drop a literal boulder into it, and the deepest parts remain entirely undisturbed. The surface may ripple, but the core remains unmoved. The ancient roadmap to peace is never about removing the rocks from your path. It is about deepening the vessel that holds your consciousness. You do not need a better, easier life with zero conflict. You need a better, deeper experience of the life you already possess. You need to build a mind that can hold chaos without becoming chaotic. Let's play a game of truth or dare with your ego. True or false? If I just had $10,000 more in my bank account right now, my mind would finally be completely quiet. Here is your spoiler alert. It absolutely wouldn't. Your mind would just find significantly more expensive, high-stakes things to worry about. The problem isn't the size of your account. It's the depth of your vessel. Samuel reached beneath his workbench and handed Elias a simple, unadorned notebook with a dark cloth cover. "This is your roadmap," he said firmly. "It does not require hours of meditation on a mountaintop. It requires exactly 5 minutes of your time. Not when you feel like doing it, but before your feet even touch the floor in the morning. This is a still water workflow," Samuel explained, pointing to the blank pages. "And it is non-negotiable if you want your sanity back. First, you enforce the zero device zone. For the first 5 minutes of your day, your phone is nothing more than a useless brick. If you check a notification, if you glance at the news, or if you read a single text message before these 5 minutes are up, you have already lost your morning. You have invited 1,000 strangers into your bedroom to dictate your emotional state. You have surrendered your fortress without a fight. Second, you practice the 3-seed sowing. You open this book, and you write down 3 highly specific moments of goodness from the previous 24 hours. Samuel leaned in closer, his eyes sharp. Do not write down generic lies like, I am grateful for my job, or I like my house. Your brain doesn't feel generic statements. Write down micro details. Write the precise way the morning sun hit the corner of the kitchen table. Write the exact temperature of my first sip of black coffee. Or the sound of my daughter laughing at a silly joke yesterday at dinner. These are your white stones. You are forcing your neurological pathways to scan your life for beauty instead of threat. Let's test this right this second. Do not wait for tomorrow. Grab a scrap piece of paper, open your notes app, or mentally lock it in. What is one highly specific thing that went well for you in the last single hour? Not your whole week, just the last 60 minutes. Did the water run warm? Was the chair comfortable? That single detail is your very first white seed. Plant it now. Elias looked down at the simple cloth notebook, tracing the texture of the cover with his thumb. Is that really all it takes? He asked, a hint of skepticism returning to his voice. Just 5 minutes of writing down small things? It feels too simple for a problem this heavy. Samuel smiled faintly. He picked up his carving knife and a rough, unshaped block of cedar wood. With one swift, practiced motion, a large curl was shaved off and fell to the floor. It is not about what you are adding to the list, Elias, Samuel replied softly. It is entirely about what you are removing from your mind. He held up the wood, revealing the faint outline of a utensil beginning to emerge. To find the spoon hidden inside this raw block of wood, I do not add anything to it. I have to ruthlessly remove everything that is not the spoon. He set the knife down, looking Elias dead in the eyes. To find your inherent peace, you do not need to acquire new spiritual secrets. You have to chip away and remove the layers of practice negativity, the unnecessary social comparisons, and your toxic addiction to the very next moment. This transition is what we call the wilderness period. For the first 7 days, this practice will feel completely stupid. Your brain will literally scream for the dark stones of worry, stress, and anxiety because those feelings are comfortable and familiar to you. Worry feels like work. Peace feels like vulnerability. But if you choose to stand firm in that wilderness, if you refuse to touch your phone, the momentum will shift. The second mile becomes lighter. Let's run a lightning-fast mental check-in to lock this into your memory. 1. Morning gratitude must be micro-specific, not macro-generic. 2. The evening reset closes a loop so your brain can actually sleep. 3. True peace is an act of radical subtraction. Remove what is not the spoon. Elias walked out of the cedar-scented workshop that afternoon with the notebook tucked tightly under his arm. He didn't feel cured. He felt challenged. He made a quiet, definitive commitment to the 30-day practice. The first 4 days were an absolute disaster. His hand practically twitched with a phantom urge to grab his phone at 6 a.m. His mind screamed that he was missing important updates, that he was falling behind, that he was wasting time. But he forced his fingers to hold the pen instead of the screen. By day 12, a strange neurological shift began to occur. During his agonizing morning commute through bumper-to-bumper traffic, Elias found himself actively looking for tiny moments of beauty. Why? Because he knew he needed something hyper-specific to write down the next morning. He noticed the dramatic shape of a storm cloud. He noticed the genuine smile of a street vendor. His attention was being systematically hijacked by goodness. By day 20, the true test arrived. A major project failed at the office. An executive sent a scathing red flag email. Normally, Elias's heart would have pounded like a war drum, his stomach tie into knots for days. But this time he breathed in. He looked at the chaos. He felt the ripple on the surface. But deep down in the reservoir, the water remained clear. The external circumstances of his life had not changed at all. The office was just as loud, the bills were just as real, and the city was just as chaotic. But Elias had changed completely. He had stopped asking, how do I find peace? And started asking, what if I just stop actively throwing it away? He had finally dropped the fragile cup of anxiety and picked up the heavy stone vase. Imagine waking up 30 days from today with that exact same level of unshakable armor. The same job, the same stress, but your chest feels completely light. Is that version of your life worth giving up your phone for 5 minutes a morning? If you're hesitant, your addiction to the noise is deeper than you think. My friend, you are not a helpless victim of a chaotic, fast-paced world. You are simply the architect of an internal garden that you have allowed to grow completely wild and untamed. The ancient roadmap to peace is never going to be found in a new country, a new relationships, or a higher-paying job. It is found entirely in the sacred 5 minutes before you allow the digital crowd into your mind. It is found in the micro-appreciation of a beautiful life you are currently ignoring while you chase a hypothetical life you think you want. The cloth notebook is sitting on your desk. The 30-day clock starts tomorrow morning at exactly 5 a.m. It is time to stop asking the universe for a sign and start actively sowing your seeds. The vase is currently empty. The noise is waiting to fill it. What choice will you make when the sun comes up? If you're ready to trade your fragile cup of daily anxiety for a deep vase of internal peace, hit the like button right now. It sends a clear signal to the algorithm that this growing community values true internal growth over empty external noise. I want to hold you directly accountable to your very first day of practice. Drop a comment below with the first specific seed of gratitude you are writing down today. I will be personally replying to as many as possible to help you stay anchored in the wilderness. Peace is internal foundation, but consistent discipline is external structure. If you are truly ready to master the 1% rule that makes this 30-day transformation completely inevitable, click and watch our next story right here. Subscribe to keep your garden growing.